Okay, we are live. Welcome everybody to the opening ceremony of the 2023 third annual Inspiring Role Models Virtual Conference. My name is Kevin Yang.
And my name is Yuo Xie, and we're the co-presidents of the Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation's Youth Leadership Committee, as well as your hosts for this event. I know this event may not be friendly for everyone in different time zones, so don't worry about it. After this event, we'll have replays on YouTube as well as videos. So if you're in a time zone that's different from ours, make sure that you watch the videos on our channel after the event. Michigan Youth Empowerment Foundation, founded in 2016, is a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to empowering students K-12 with the tools and knowledge necessary to succeed in the 21st century. Our programs are designed to foster students' interest in STEAM leadership and entrepreneurship, helping to bridge the gap between academics and real-world technological applications. Our initiatives include youth STEAM courses, community impact, and early career exploration. We recently had classes in Pontiac Library as well as Detroit Public Library. Our summer semester online courses are also starting soon. So if you're interested in any of these programs, make sure to check out our website. It is myefound.org and myeb.com, which is listed on the screen.
We cannot have organized this conference without the support of our sponsors, Extreme V, Sensata Technologies, General Motors, Comerica, and the Next Tier Automotive Team, as well as with the help of our partner organizations, including Envision STEM, Illuminate Business, Community Health Ed, and Youthify. And now the Inspiring Role Models Conference will now begin. At school, we're taught the nuances of trigonometry and delve into the depths of Shakespeare, but we're hardly ever told how to make impact in our own community. Some of those influential figures in history have led by this example. And that is why we want to bring these impactful speakers to the stage as examples of successful and ambitious young leaders.
With that said, as adolescents strive to develop a sense of identity and purpose, role models become important in helping identify the behaviors, attitudes, and qualities that make up an important leader. In this conference, we strive to offer guidance and opportunities for motivated students around the world to help them pursue their passions. Additionally, we hope to provide everyone here with a space to inspire, collaborate, and innovate.
And now, without further ado, let's invite our first speaker of the event, Ms. Sherry Ann Winter. She was born in Jamaica and raised in Metro Detroit and holds 2 degrees in psychology, one from the University of Michigan and the other from the University of Detroit Mercy. Ms. Winter also loves to volunteer in the community. She worked in automotive for more than 15 years and is currently working in HR and financial services. She loves to help the youth and is a proud member of Toastmasters as well.
Today, we're excited to have Miss Sherry Ann Winter as our keynote speaker to share how you can uncover your true potential and be a change maker. With that, it is our honor to welcome Miss Winter.
Thank you so much. This is a pleasure to provide a keynote speaking for our third annual Inspiring Role Models Virtual Conference. My name is Sherry Ann Winter, and today I'm going to talk to you about how you can do it all. Next slide. So Kevin kind of stole my thunder. He gave away my introduction, but I'll kind of summarize a little bit more about myself. I currently live in West Bloomfield. I have 2 children. I hold 2 degrees in psychology. My undergrad was from the University of Detroit Mercy in child psychology, and then my master's is from the University of Michigan Dearborn in health psychology. I love my community. I love serving and helping the youth. Currently, I'm working as a recruiter in financial services, but I love to speak. It's something that I believe is a talent of mine. And my greatest achievement is accomplishing the Distinguished Toastmaster Award, which is called a DTM, back in 2020 during COVID. Next slide, please. All right. So today we're going to talk about exploration of various aspects. We're going to touch on exploration of yourself, interests, talents, leadership, and careers. This is very important because I firmly believe that you can have it all and you can do it all, but I'm going to walk you through some things that can help you achieve that. Next slide. All right, let's talk about ways to explore your self-identity. This is a little cheat sheet. It's 10 ways to start a self-exploration routine. So a couple of things. It's important to take a life audit. And what that means is take the time to look at your life, do an assessment, and see if you are where you're at compared to where you want to be. You want to create a personal development plan. You want to explore your values, write your life's movie, journal your thoughts, identify your limiting beliefs, and set your vision and intention on the things that mean the most to you. Ask lots of questions, take a risk. And we're going to talk about more about doing behavioral tests. Next slide. So let's talk about exploring your self-interest. Now, normally when we think about self-interest, we take it as a negative connotation. I would like to challenge you today to look at self-interest in a positive way. So what is self-interest? Self-interest generally refers to a focus on the needs and desires and interests of the self. It's a number of philosophical, psychological, and biological theories to examine the role of your self-interest in motivating human action. So this is important. Let's kind of look at it in a more positive way where self-interest is not looked at something negatively. Look at something positive. So for example, I would say I was pretty flexible growing up as a child. I did good with my decision in my studies at school, but when it came time to going to college, I was overwhelmed by the decision. I had an option to go to Wayne State, University of Michigan, Michigan State, Central, and the University of Detroit Mercy. So at this time, I struggled with trying to discover my self-interest and figure out which college I should attend. Well, someone that came along and helped me along the way was my mentor, my high school counselor. I will never forget the analogy that he delivered to me when I was struggling with making this huge decision on which college I should go to. He said, Sherry Ann, it's really simple. Do you want to be a big fish in a little sea or a little fish in a big sea? I thought about that analogy and I began to categorize the different schools based off big schools like Michigan State, U of M, and then smaller schools like University of Detroit Mercy. And I said to myself, do I want to be a number or do I want my professors to know me by name? And I had to evaluate my values and said, you know what? It's important for me that my professor knows my name. Decision made. I want to be a big fish in a small sea. University of Detroit Mercy offered that opportunity. And here I go, going into my first year at the University of Detroit Mercy, and I enjoyed all 4 years, and I never regretted my decision. What my counselor didn't know is that I was able to use that opportunity and that analogy applied to everything else in my life. And I really, really am thankful for that analogy so I can really understand what's important for me. Next slide, please. All right, let's talk about talents. What's your talent? I can be honest. My talent is nothing athletic. I can't shoot a basketball. I can't catch a football, but I'm good at talking. I'm good at communicating. I'm good at being a leader. That's my talent. I own that talent. And now I'm figuring out ways to transfer my talents into ways to make revenue for myself, income for my family, and things that I truly enjoy. So I want to challenge you to do it all. Explore your talents. Figure out what works for you, what doesn't. And there's nothing wrong with taking risk to learn what's truly your talent. I had to get creative with my talents and explore areas of administration and planning because those things came natural to me. Leadership came natural to me. And that's how I started my opportunity with Toastmasters, which is a public speaking organization. In Toastmasters, I was able to explore and polish my talent of being a communicator as well as a leader. And we can talk more about that a little later. But I want you to take some time and think about the things that you're good at. And don't be afraid to take risk because you can do it all. Next slide. My favorite topic to discuss is leadership styles. I will be honest, this is just a snippet. 6 leadership styles. There's lots and lots of research online with various leadership styles and different combinations. But today we're going to focus on the 6. So I challenge you to explore your leadership style and be flexible. I would say at some point in my life, I was each of these leadership styles, depending on the job requirement and the environment I was in. So be flexible, but I'll be honest, my primary leadership style is probably coaching, but I've been through all of these. And the next slide, we're going to break these down and get your camera phones ready because we're going to do a Mentimeter, and I want you to tell me which style you think aligns with your leadership style. Next slide. So let's walk through these 6 leadership styles. The first one is visionary. This person motivates people towards a vision. Makes sense, right? Their motto is like, come with me. Their mantra is self-confidence, empathy, and they're a change catalyst. How many of you think you're a visionary? Great. The next one that I personally identify with the most is coaching. A coach believes in developing people for the future. And their motto is try this or try that. Or I think if you take the risk this way, you may see something different. They believe in developing others. They believe in self-awareness, and they're also empathetic. The next leadership style is affiliative. This style creates harmony and builds emotional bonds. And they strongly believe that people come first before anything. And they're also focused on empathy, building relationships, and communication. Democratic is the 4th leadership style. This type forges consensus through participation. And their motto is, what do you think? They're always including others and making sure they do a red robin around the table to make sure everyone has a say. So they're big on collaboration, team leadership, and communication. The 5th leadership style is pace setting. Pace setters set high standards for performance. And their motto is, do as I do now. My kids will tell you I'm pace setting when it comes to being a parent. But pace setters are very conscientious and they drive to achieve initiative. And the final leadership style is commanding. This style demands immediate compliance. I take that back. My children will probably say I'm commanding. And the saying and motto for commanding leaders are do what I tell you. And you can see how that kind of fits with the parenting style. And our goal is to drive, our goal is to drive to achievement in terms of initiative and self-control. So I hope you have your camera phones ready. Please go ahead and scan the QR code, next slide, for your leadership style. So I reviewed 6 leadership styles. I'll go over them quickly: coaching, affiliative, democratic, commanding, pace setting, and visionary. So I'll give it a minute. I see a couple of results coming in. Don't be afraid. Just based off some information that I shared with you, share your leadership style. I would honestly say I can't think that I've never experienced none of those 6, because different work environments, in my experience, has been conducive to one of those. And so I say that to say that you really want to be flexible. And sometimes we have what's called a combination of those leadership styles. So I want to just promote the idea to be flexible and allow yourself to explore different leadership styles depending on the situation. So I just see some results come in. I'm going to talk through a little bit more because I want to see more results come through. And let's see who has the majority leadership style. And it looks like coaching is in the lead, which is awesome. Coaching is very beneficial because when you think about different aspects that you're in, you're going to be able to work with others and develop them. And while you're developing others, guess what? You're developing yourself. All right, so coaching is still taking the lead. Thank you so much for participating in the Mentimeter. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so coaching took the lead at 33%. And close second was commanding. We have some commanders out there. And in third was pace setters. So our pace setters came in third. And our final one is democratic and visionaries. And so as time goes by, I would challenge you to continue to take leadership style behavioral tests online and kind of see where you fall. Next slide, please. Careers. So there's a reason why it says explore different careers and not just career. This generation is in a day and age where you have so many technical resources, so many opportunities because of technology and our virtual tools, that I really want to encourage you to explore different careers, plural. My generation is used to working one job for 20 years, and that is not the case for your generation. We are seeing a shift where this ideal of being able to live in a home for 20, 30 years is out the window. Now you can rent out your home, you can Airbnb it, you can do so many different things. You can have rental properties. So I want to allow you to think outside the box and realize that you can really do it all. You can explore various careers, take your talents and see how you can convert that into working for a living and exploring those industries. The world is at your fingertips, so please take advantage. I know with COVID, a lot of things have been shifted around, and our normal is now our new normal, which includes how we work. So we have opportunities where you can have side businesses on the side that you do is in your personal time. You can still work your traditional 9 to 5. Individuals who are working from home their entire career for the last 2 years at least. So these are some opportunities that I would say don't sleep on, be proactive, look at your talents, look at your value system, look at your leadership style, and pick the perfect job for you and allow yourself to explore different careers because the world is at your fingertips with the virtual tools and technology that's been provided to your generation. You can honestly do it all. And I'm so excited to be a part of this group. And I look forward to many more conferences. I'm going to turn things back over to you, Kevin and Yul. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Winter, for the presentation. We do have a little bit of extra time. So one of our viewers from YouTube is curious about the 6 leadership styles that you were mentioning earlier. So one of our YouTube viewers said, on which situations are each leadership style suitable for which type of situations are these 6
Absolutely.
suitable?
All right, so I'll start with the given, which is like, for example, being the president. That has to be a commanding leadership style, right? That is a situation where it's set up where we need someone to take authority, someone to give direction. And so I would say in those positions, anything in superior leadership, commanding works. Coaching is very self-explanatory, right? If you want to coach a team or you want to lead a team on a project, coaching is something that's a go-to, easy primary leadership style. I would say affiliative is one where it may be a unique situation. Affiliative is one of those styles where you can apply it depending on the personalities of others. And so is democratic. I would say you probably couldn't go wrong with democratic and coaching only because we live in an era where collaboration is key. And when you think about coaching and democratic, both of those leadership styles really look at collaboration. So in a work environment and even on school sports, right? And you have athletes on this call. I would say democratic and coaching would be 2 of the primary easy to work with leadership styles. I hope that answers the question.
Yep, that's very nice. Thank you for your response. One of our other YouTube viewers is also curious, since your presentation is called You Can Do It All, one of our viewers wondered, how can you balance your self-interest with your duties, such as your 9 to 5 job or school? So how do you balance the idea of you can do it all with work?
Absolutely. And that's a great question. When I say you can do it all, you really have to start with self-identification. Figure out what you value, discover yourself, and learn what's important. And then I would align school and work with your talents. If you can get that alignment, I think you will find that it's easy to balance because it's something that comes natural to you, it's something that you value. A lot of times we have very creative workspaces that allow more autonomy than in my generation coming up. And I say you can take advantage of that autonomy and figure out ways to balance what you value. Next question.
Thank you for your input on that. One of our viewers also wondered, could there be a balance of many different types of leadership styles?
Absolutely. I can give you an example in my 15 years in the automotive industry where I've had to use each of those different leadership styles depending on my boss, depending on the demands of the project, and depending on the team makeup. I would say if you could really influence your team and your boss and the people that you collaborate with, I would always refer back to a coaching and democratic style because that is a style where everything is inclusive. When you do a commanding leadership style, that's not a very inclusive leadership style. And we want to make sure that we are diverse in our teams, we are diverse in thought, we're diverse in perspective. And the only way to achieve that is to use a style that includes inclusivity. And so I think it's important by default. The democratic style is one that really, really values collaboration and making sure everyone is included.
That sounds very insightful. I think we have time for 2 more questions. So one of our viewers was also wondering, some of the leadership styles, such as commanding, sounds a little bit more demanding than others. So how can someone make sure that their leadership style is not too bossy or too demanding for their peers?
Absolutely. I think self-assessment, I think being self-aware that certain leadership styles read across a certain way that could turn people off. I think it's important that when you're in a leadership position, that you assert yourself in a way that allows everyone to feel that you're inclusive and that you want to get feedback, you want to collaborate. But I'll be honest, when it comes to being a parent, commanding is the style to go, just because that's just the reality and the nature of things. But outside of parenting and being the president, like of the US, I really can't see commanding working in an environment where you're breeding collaboration and inclusivity.
That sounds good. Yeah, I think it's very important for the leadership to not to guide your peers, but at the same time, you don't want to be too demanding so that it might have negative impacts as well. So I really appreciated that answer. I think our final question in the chat was that since you said you were more about coaching leadership style, so can you remind our viewers about the mentality behind this coaching leadership style and what you value in a leader that has a coaching mindset?
Absolutely. So I love coaching because for some reason it just comes natural to me to want to develop others because I feel like it helps me develop myself. And so developing others is the forefront and the focus of coaching. So when you think of coaching, a very easy analogy is thinking of a sports coach. What does a sports coach do? They want to develop you to become a better athlete. So you can apply that across various dimensions, developing others to be better performers at work, developing others to do better at completing tasks. And so coaching is just one of those things where you have to have an innate feeling that makes you focus on developing others to be the best that they can be. And so I'll actually take back my comment about parenting and being commanding, because when you think about parenting, you can see how coaching could also be a primary leadership style when you're dealing with children or youth or others. I think it's important that you always think about how the other person is experiencing what they're going through and coaching them through where there's gaps. So I love the coaching leadership style because I see a lot of benefits from it and I see how it can apply across different dimensions of life. And so I hope I answered that question.
Yeah, I think I agree with a lot of the ideas of the coaching leadership style. And I know I already said this earlier about the last question, but I think one of our viewers just asked a really, really good question. This can be a really tough challenge for many of our leaders. What if one of your team members does not listen to your leadership? What is like the best action to take on that problem?
Yeah, so I've worked as a lead in several different jobs over my 15 years working in the automotive industry, and I've had that situation. So I think it's important for one, break down the barrier that you're someone's boss. I think when the people feel like they're part of a team and no one has a hierarchy or a higher role, I think that helps. First thing I would offer up. Second thing is I think it's important that the leader is not only a team member, but they take a portion of responsibility for the team. And I say that, and I'll give an example. The example I want to give is I had a team when I was working at Ford of 5 individuals, And we had 21, we called them build of material. They're different combinations of body builds on a vehicle, just to simply put it. And we were assigning and breaking up the work. And we did the math. And I said, okay, I'll take these 4 car lines because I'm most familiar with them. So and so, you take these 4. So and so, you take these 4. And so you take these 4, and so on and so forth. And everyone was kind of taken back, like, wait, you're going to take some work? And I said, yeah. I said, we're a team. We're going to do this together. And so by doing that, I was able to recognize where the gaps were because I'm actually doing my own body of works for these different car lines. And I realized the tool wasn't working. And so instead of my team being frustrated and I'm leading from the top and I don't know what's going on because I'm not the one doing the standards and building these buildable materials, I was actually hands-on and I saw things that needed to be fixed. So now I have both sides of it. I was able to recognize things, work with our developer, get the tool to fix it. So that way our team could be more productive. So I think by allowing others to see you as a team member and not a boss or the team lead, I think is the first way to address an issue when you're working with someone who could be difficult or who do not want to listen or maybe not want to be a part of the team.
Thank you, Ms. Winter, for answering all of our questions. Yeah, I really think it's important to not think of yourself as a boss, even if you're the leader. You should really be more involved with your whole team and think of yourself just as any other team member. I think that would improve your response from your teammates. I think that's a really insightful answer. So on behalf of everyone here today, Kevin and I are going to go back to continuing to introduce the event. Thank you, Ms. Winter, for your inspiring words. Now we're excited to introduce the 7 other guest speakers presenting this weekend. This schedule and our speakers' bios can also be found on our website, nyeb.com/IRM-event, which is also listed on the screen right here.
First off, from 2:45 p.m. EDT to 3:25 p.m. EDT, you'll hear from Anjali Menon, who will be speaking about her own experience as a biomedical engineering student.
Next, from 3:30 p.m. to 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time, you will be introduced to Professor Changgong Zhou's story about discovering his passion and becoming a respected physics professor.
Then from 4:10 to 4:55 is Dr. Renee Ashworth, who has a medical doctorate degree and will share her journey in medicine. Kicking off Sunday from 2 p.m. to 2:40 p.m., you'll discover the business of Queridos clothing with founder Ms. Megan Burke's presentation.
After Megan, please attend Ms. Yan Chan's talk from 2:45 p.m. to 3:25 p.m. about futuristic vehicles and modern safety designs.
Next, from 3:30 to 4:10 p.m., the conference will feature Ms. Ayana Christie, who will talk about how to explore yourself and develop your career.
To conclude the speakers lineup, Ms. Yaying Jin from Microsoft will share with you the importance of innovation at 4:15 p.m. Now let's talk about what probably many of you have been waiting for, the raffles.
Speaking of raffles, you'll all be given the opportunity to enter one at the end of each event. This pertains to our audience on Zoom webinar, as well as those on the YouTube Live. We will be giving away multiple different prizes as seen as this graphic below. Be sure to stick around at the end of each speech to have the highest chance of winning a prize. All you have to do is scan the QR code on the screen for each event and fill out the preceding Google form. A new QR code will be presented in each session, and the QR code for our first raffle of the conference is now displayed on the screen. And all winners will be emailed a few days following the conference with their prize and more information. Please take a minute now to scan the QR code for our first raffle.
We'll leave this slide up for a minute so everyone who's interested can get a scan. All right, hopefully everyone had a chance to scan the QR code. As we reach the end of the opening ceremony, we also wanted to open up a Q&A to the audience. So feel free to use the question and answer function if you're on Zoom, or the live YouTube chat if you're watching this from YouTube. If you're a VIP but you're new to the Zoom webinar feature, this slide explains the Q&A function. The Q&A function is right next to the raise hand icon, and you can choose to either ask questions anonymously or show your name on screen.
If you have any questions or issues that arise throughout the conference, please email ylc@nyufound.org, which you can find in the chat below. And someone on our team will get back to you as soon as possible. So feel free to take a screenshot of this slide now.
I'll leave this up for about 15 seconds for anyone to write down our email. All right, once again, our first event of the day after this grand opening ceremony with Ms. Sherry Ann will be Anjali Manan's presentation on biomedical innovation, which will start at around 2:45 p.m. Eastern time or 11:45 a.m. Pacific time if you're living in the Western regions. We'll start we'll use the same Zoom and YouTube Live, so the one that you're watching right now. So please stay on this call, and we'll be back at around 2:45 p.m. Eastern time, which is about 10 minutes from now. We'll have a short break for a moment. And once again, thank you, Ms. Winter, for your inspiring words. Really appreciate your time.
All right, guys, it's 2:45 p.m. So the next event is going to start now. Hi, everyone, and thank you for signing up for this event. I'm Li Yu, and I'll be the moderator for Day 1, Event 2 of the Inspiring Role Models Conference, and we will be listening to Anjali Menon present Engineering Miracles, Unleashing the Power of Biomedical Innovation. So Anjali Menon is a dedicated and passionate advocate for healthcare and social causes. As the co-founder of the Medic Foundation, a nonprofit incorporated research society, she has spearheaded groundbreaking initiatives in the field of chronic conditions. In addition to her role at the Medic Foundation, Anjali serves as the executive director of the Global Outreach Project, an endeavor focusing on donating vital medical supplies to remote and underserved areas through rural medical camps, and she has been honored with the Canadian Governor General Sovereign Medal for Volunteers and the Diana Award. Anjali's journey serves as an inspiration to all, emphasizing the power of compassion, innovation, and advocacy in transforming lives and creating a better world. So if you have any questions during her presentation, please feel free to write your questions in the chat, and at the very end of her presentation, there will be a Q&A. So we also have a variety of raffle prizes for this conference as well, so stay tuned to the end to sign up for them. So now, without further ado, please join me in giving a warm welcome to Anjali Menon.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. Okay, so I'm going to head on and start sharing my screen. Just give me a moment. Okay. Hi, everyone. Today, I'm going to share with you a vision of a future where medical miracles can become a reality, where cutting-edge technology mingles with compassion, and where you, the youth, hold the power to transform healthcare for generations to come. In this age of rapid technological advancement, biomedical engineering can actually stand at the forefront of innovation. It can reshape the landscape of healthcare as we know it today. It's a discipline that empowers you to make a tangible impact on the lives of countless individuals. So, welcome to my presentation on engineering miracles, where together we will unleash the power of biomedical innovation. Now, usually when I present, I try to be super engaging. So throughout my presentation, I will ask you to interact with me either through the reaction buttons on Zoom or through your phones. So please try and stay as engaged as possible and as excited as you can as I walk you through my journey as a biomedical engineering student and hopefully inspire you to take action along the way. Now, before I begin, can you react thumbs up or thumbs down on the Zoom if you've heard about biomedical engineering? Yep, I see a few thumbs up there. Awesome. Okay, wonderful. So what I want to do is actually create a word cloud together so I can understand what you already know about biomedical engineering. So if you can get your phones out and join our word cloud on menti.com using this code, and we can kind of do some interactive activities to identify, what you already know about this fascinating field. Okay, just waiting in on some responses now. Medicine, DNA, yep. It's definitely a lifesaver. Yes, you can make a bunch of medical devices. Yep. For sure. Yeah, these are some fantastic responses. So oh yeah, we have multifaceted field. Of course, it's intriguing. Yep, natural structures. Great. These are some great ideas. So yes, absolutely. Biomedical engineering is all of what you mentioned. Pursuing a career in biomedical engineering requires dedication, hard work, and ultimately a thirst for knowledge. But let me reassure you, the rewards are boundless. Each challenge that you overcome in this field, each problem you solve, each innovation you develop will be a step towards a better, healthier, and equitable world. I always like to say that, as biomedical engineers, you have the potential to be modern day heroes, not with capes and superpowers, of course, but with knowledge and creativity. As biomedical engineers, you possess the unique ability to develop life-saving medical devices. So for example, you can develop ultrasound machines, MRIs, CT scanners. You can design groundbreaking prosthetics. You can pioneer cutting-edge therapies. So for example, researching novel therapies are a lot of the pivotal part of biomedical engineering. You even have the opportunity to potentially revolutionize drug delivery systems. So creating pharmaceutical drugs for different chronic illnesses. And all of this kind of biomedical engineers do in the pursuit of healing and hope. So what I want everyone to do now is take a moment to close their eyes. Imagine for a moment a world where disabilities are transformed into abilities, where the blind can see and the deaf can hear, thanks to your innovations. Picture a world where disease is detected and treated with unprecedented precision, prolonging, and it enhances the quality of life. Envision the joy and relief in the eyes of patients and their families as they experience the miracles that you can create. You can open your eyes now. These experiences have actually happened to me, thanks to my journey as a biomedical engineering student. And today, I would like to take this opportunity to share these with you all. I'm hoping that sharing with you my experiences can not only inspire you all to take action, but it can also provide insight into one student's experiences as an aspiring biomedical engineer. So, as the introduction rightly said, and I'm sure you guys have done some research a little bit about me, I am a student at the University of British Columbia in Vancouver, and I study biomedical engineering. And you will see if you start to research different biomedical engineering schools, especially across North America, because this field is so broad, often you'll see different streams that students can specialize their knowledge in. So I specialize in the systems and signal stream, which is more the electrical side of things. So for example, creating those ultrasound machines, CT scanners that we talked about earlier. Fun fact, I'm also an immigrant. So my family moved here from Mumbai, India, when I was only 2 years old. But I always like to say I'm Canadian at heart. I've been raised in Canada for my whole life, and beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia has been my home. So I'm sure you guys want to know a little bit more about me and what brought me to this conference and why am I really speaking to you today. I've always been an ambitious individual. In early 2013, in I guess grade 6, grade 7, I was visiting a sustainability conference. And that's where it struck me that, our school doesn't have a green team and we need to be more environmentally friendly. So I took this on myself and I went up to my school principal and I began my first green team. And this led me to the opportunity to speak in front of around 50,000 people at We Day. So We Day is an annual conference that's hosted by Free the Children. And we have a bunch of youth change makers that come into this arena. And I had the opportunity to speak and raise awareness about environmentalism that was so close to my heart. In high school, I realized that my community never really had a TEDx event where we could gather together and share knowledge. So I gathered my peers together and along with my school counselor, I began the first TEDx event showcasing our community's knowledge. In university, I got very interested in healthcare and chronic illnesses. And I knew that, as biomedical engineering undergraduate students, we need to do something to innovate and advocate for these conditions. So I co-founded the MEDIC Foundation with my peer. This year, I wanted to take this impact forward to donate medical supplies to international communities. So I began the Global Outreach Project to provide aid to international communities, both locally and globally. Now, I've often been asked, what is my inspiration? What motivates me to be a biomedical engineer? Well, there's tons of answers to those questions, and today I want to touch on the two most important points. In early 2017, I visited the Mata Amritanandamai ashram in India, and this filled me with a sense of empathy and compassion. These children, as you can see in these images, they were studying on cold floors in peak winter. So these children visit this ashram to study and get tutoring for different aspects. And looking at this, I made it my mission to make a difference in the lives of these children. These children have to walk really, really far to access medical technology. Even just a doctor is really inaccessible in these communities. And I kind of wanted to make it my vision and mission to provide accessible medical technology to not only help these children, but their families to live long and fulfilling lives. More recently, my mother was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. Crohn's disease is a chronic autoimmune condition. And I've kind of seen the worst of her, accompanying her to the emergency, monitoring her symptoms. This has made me extremely resilient and has really wanted me to research a cure for chronic conditions. So enough about me and my inspiration. I want to give you all an opportunity to reflect on what inspires you. Is there an experience or event in your life that makes you want to change something around you? That fuels you to make a difference? Well, I'd love to hear about it. So let's use this code once again, the same one as before. And it's the next slide, which is what inspires you to take action. And we can do some brainstorming together on what kind of inspires you. What's that point in your life that you want to act on today? Okay, just waiting on some responses. Okay. Yeah, take your time, guys. Please, take this opportunity to really reflect on what you think inspires you and what can you do in your life.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think that code sends us to the one before.
Oh, the one before?
Yeah,
okay,
I'm seeing
give me
people in
one
chat.
second.
Yeah, talking about it.
Okay, 1 second.
And also there might be a little bit of delay between the stream. So
okay.
Give it a little bit more time.
Okay, I think you should see it now. There might be a technical issue. It says it's not working. But okay, I see some responses there. Helping others. Yeah, definitely helping others. Making a positive change in the world. Yep. Yeah, a sick family member for sure. That's something close to my heart as well. And that definitely empowers you in different ways that you'll see to make a difference in their lives for sure. Wanting our world to be a better place, of course. Yep, these are all fantastic responses, guys. Yep, making change to future society, saving lives. Yep. Awesome. Yeah, these are fantastic responses. And I want you to hold those thoughts as I, switch back gears into speaking about biomedical engineering. These are fantastic. Okay. So thinking back to my motivation earlier, which was to essentially provide accessible medical technology, I took this forward and, knowing my limitations as an undergraduate student, I wanted to do something personally to help impact the people around me and even global communities, like I mentioned in India. So I established the MEDIC Foundation, which stands for Medical Engineering Students Designing Innovations for a Cause. And its single goal was to improve accessibility to healthcare for long-term or chronic conditions. So at MEDIC, we have 4 different branches, each which offer a unique opportunity to research into chronic diseases and essentially apply biomedical engineering principles. So we have Parkinson's disease, diabetes, cancer, anxiety, and depression. And so each of these 4 conditions, MEDIC has chosen to specialize in, and we have different biomedical technology that we're researching to help improve the quality of lives for those diagnosed with these conditions. So I'm hoping that as I speak to you about these branches, you can gain some insight as to what you can accomplish as a biomedical engineering student. Okay, can you all react in the chat if you've heard of Parkinson's disease? Yep, I see some hands. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, great. So Parkinson's is a progressive neurodegenerative disease. That's a mouthful. So what that essentially means is that its symptoms get worse over time. So Parkinson's patients that are diagnosed, they're senior patients who often experience tremors, rigidity, posture instability, and often there are treatments available, such as potentially medication or surgery, such as deep brain stimulation. These are often not effective. And essentially, pathologically speaking, it's the lack of dopamine in the brain that causes these issues. And all of the treatments are related to potentially increasing or stimulating the region that provides dopamine. Okay, so I want you all to just hold that thought for a minute and identify. So what are things that you can do knowing that Parkinson's disease has these kind of issues and their patients experience tremors, rigidity, posture instability? Is there something we can do to make their lives better? So that's when you put your thinking caps on as biomedical engineers. And MEDIC, for example, is working on this to establish a novel therapy for Parkinson's called galvanic vestibular stimulation. So let me break that down once again. So galvanic just means electricity. And then vestibular is the system in your inner ear that controls balance. So together, this just means that stimulating the inner ear, which is the region of your body that controls for balance, can actually reduce tremors, for example. It can reduce Parkinson's symptoms. So this is very, very promising. And one thing you can do as biomedical engineering students is participate in research. So we're working on clinical trials right now, and we're actually working hands-on with Parkinson's patients, which is super exciting. So you can really see the impact that your research has on these patients. And one thing that I've learned is a smile can really brighten your day, especially a smile from a Parkinson's patient who has, tried medication, tried surgery, but your research really makes a direct impact on them. That's rewarding. Okay. So can you all react in the chat if you've ever heard of diabetes? Yep, I see so many raised hands, of course. So diabetes is definitely a well-known long-term metabolic disorder, which is related to the levels of blood sugar. And treatments for this mainly surround the maintenance of blood sugar and blood glucose of a certain range. So there are two types of diabetes, as you obviously know. There's type 1, which is the immune system, which destroys its own kind of supply of insulin. There's also type 2, which is actually the most common type. And this is where the body essentially becomes resistant to glucose. Now, both of these types can occur depending on age. But because diabetes is such a broad condition and it affects people across the world, as biomedical engineers, we often try to narrow our problem down. We want to figure out something where we can tangibly impact either a community or a group of individuals. So at MEDIC, we took a very specific problem. We wanted to focus on the after effects of the Sri Lanka Civil War, which is diabetes. 1 in 12 adults actually suffer from diabetes in Sri Lanka. So there's definitely a need for a medical device. Furthermore, there's also a bunch of issues surrounding affordability of medical devices in Sri Lanka. So we identified that we needed to make it a low-cost device. I know across the world you have access to different insulin devices that are often or not very expensive for people with diabetes to manage long-term treatments. So at MEDIC, we put on again our biomedical thinking caps, and we wanted to create a low-cost insulin pump for type 1 diabetes. So if you remember back to the first slide, type 1 diabetes is where the immune system destroys insulin. So if we can create a low-cost insulin pump that can automatically pump back the destroyed insulin, we can help manage symptoms and also improve the quality of lives for those diagnosed with diabetes. So yeah, absolutely. So we're also partnering with a medical clinic in Hatton in Sri Lanka. And what you'll learn is if you get involved with this field is that building collaborations and making a tangible impact really focuses around the right collaborations that you make. So for example, our clinic in Hatton, they provide us with a lot of information about our patients that help guide us into creating the right medical device for them. Okay, can you all react in the chat if you've heard of cancer? Yep, of course. This is a very, very prominent, and I'm sure that there's one person that you know that's in your family, that's in friends that have been affected by cancer. Cancer is a very serious condition that occurs with uncontrolled cell growth. And there are two types of tumors that are associated with cancer. There's benign. Benign cancer is where they stay in one area. And then malignant cancer, where they start spreading to different areas. But as you may know, the best way to treat cancer is early detection. This is crucial. And for patients that are, getting treated for cancer, you'll understand that the earlier they can detect the cancer, the better and more effective, for example, things like surgery, radiation, like chemotherapy and hormone therapy can be more effective for these patients. So this being said, we put on our thinking caps once again, and we wanted to help potentially oncologists find a better way to detect cancer potentially earlier than they do now. So what we wanted to do was create an early detection software, which takes pathological cancer images from the lab and tells an oncologist immediately if a patient has cancer and even what type of cancer that they have. So as we improve the accuracy of this model, it's through a process called machine learning. So we will keep feeding, images and patterns and images to these the software about this different type of cancer. And hopefully we can significantly improve the early diagnosis rate and potentially even save lives. This can be a very powerful platform, and it uses principles of software engineering, computer engineering, all in this big umbrella of biomedical engineering in the application of the medical industry. So this is super promising, and I hope that as I'm sharing these potential research projects, you can understand that biomedical engineering is so broad. There are so many aspects that you can get involved in. It may not be, you study biomedical engineering in specific, but, even if you're in sciences or you're in, computer engineering field, you can have these kind of applications that make tangible impacts in the lives of individuals. Okay. So lastly, can you all react in the chat if you've heard of anxiety and depression? Yep, I see so many raised hands. Of course, yeah. So, of course, this is not the anxiety and depression that occurs potentially prior to a final exam or, a university application that you're submitting. No, this is the anxiety and depression that often co-occur and can lead to mood swings. It can interfere with daily life. And it's a very long-term kind of clinically diagnosed condition. Now, as I mentioned before, this is a very broad condition. And as biomedical engineers, we want to try and narrow down our problem. Is there a specific thing in anxiety and depression, this big pool that we can, nitpick and we can actually sit down and solve? So in early 2019, when COVID-19 hit, you can imagine the impact on all of us, not being able to meet our families and friends, not being able to go to school as we normally would. But I want you to imagine for a second, seniors in senior homes. Imagine these seniors were instructed to not leave their rooms for days. This became an issue more and more as seniors began becoming, clinically depressed. And this was a very prominent issue in British Columbia as, we had a lockdown and we, didn't have any seniors going out. We didn't have volunteers coming into senior homes. And it was just a very, obsolete environment. And so MEDIC recognized this and we wanted to do something about this. So as biomedical engineering students, we developed a wristband, which applies concepts of deep pressure therapy to the median nerve. So the median nerve is found right here, and it's actually a nerve that connects directly to your heart. And so what happens is when you apply deep pressure therapy and vibration therapy, essentially, to this nerve, it actually tends to calm your heart rate down. And in simple terms, the calming of your heart rate can actually reduce your anxiety. It can reduce symptoms of depression ultimately. And so what we wanted to call this wristband was a hug on a hand, because, when you reduce anxiety and depression, it's kind of a feeling that you're being hugged by someone. That was actually the symptom evoked when you stimulate the median nerve, which is super interesting. And so, I hope that you can see that there are tons of opportunities for you to get involved, be it prototyping a device on your own. If you like the machine learning aspect, you can get into that in more the software field. If you like clinical trials and you like getting your hands, wet in the lab, we have opportunities for that. And even if you want to have hands-on experiences with patients, you can work with patients in clinical trials as researchers. But these were just a few examples. Now, what I want you to remember is that innovation flourishes in an environment that encourages curiosity and it accepts failure as a stepping stone to success. So do not be afraid of taking risks and challenging the status quo. It's through daring to be different that true breakthroughs are achieved. I want you all to think beyond the box, volunteer, create a campaign, an initiative, or even make a small lifestyle changes within your own life. Whatever it may be, I implore you to take action, to believe in yourselves and your capacity to make a difference. The world is waiting for your ideas, your passion, and your determination. Be the architects of a better future, the engineers of change and champions of progress. Let us together build a world that we are proud to pass on to future generations. Thank you. Okay.
All right, so now that you are done, thank you, Anjali, for the wonderful and frankly heartwarming speech. So now is the time to ask questions. I will be reading any questions that pop up in the Zoom chat or the YouTube chat. So it looks like I already have a lot of questions ready for me, or ready for you. So first question is, what do you recommend people who are interested in biomedical engineering, but they don't actually have the resources to pursue it? So like, what should they start doing?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, and I appreciate you asking. So like I mentioned in my last slide, start small. Think about what you can contribute, in your own lives to begin with. Can you volunteer? Can you contribute to, for example, the medical industry without actually potentially studying it? Biomedical engineering is so broad, and part of my speech was to really inspire you guys to contribute to the medical profession in general. Even if you may not have the resources to pursue it, start volunteering at the hospital. You'll realize that that's super rewarding. Just giving your time to patients that really need it is extremely rewarding.
Very well put. Volunteering is also always rewarding because you're always doing something for people, which is always really heartwarming and nice to do. So our next question is, how can I start pursuing a career in biomedical engineering? So which major or majors do I pick?
Yeah, fantastic question. So in terms of selecting a major, it depends on your university that you're interested in. So I can speak to UBC and specifically. So what you do is you apply to the Faculty of Engineering, and we have a pre-biomedical engineering program at UBC that you can be a part of. It essentially helps to bridge the gap between high school and biomedical engineering because it's a super, super rigorous program. But you would have to apply to the Faculty of Applied Sciences in Engineering and then select biomedical engineering as your specialization.
So that's a really good answer, but like also, what majors in specific do you know about that could like be useful in the field? Because sometimes people may not want to go directly into biomedical engineering, but want to stay in the realm of it. So like what other majors could they choose?
That's a good question. So, as I mentioned, if, there are a bunch of research projects that, encompass a lot of biomedical engineering in itself. There are software that you can get involved in. So for example, if you're not particularly interested in biomedical engineering yet, you can do just generic engineering like computer engineering. You can also just do general health sciences. If you just want to get involved in sciences in general, that will give you a good kind of stepping stone to understanding both the medical and the technological requirements that come in together as biomedical engineering.
Great answer. So we have another question. When did you start being interested in biomedical engineering?
Yeah, great question. So I was in early grade 11, and this is kind of stemmed with my interest when I visited India. My mom was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. I recognized that, we need medical technology to help individuals in their daily lives, but also in inaccessible and remote communities around the world. There is such a need for this industry and for this profession, and we need more excited and equipped individuals to participate in this field. I think more often than not, students are, they don't want to do it because they think it's too hard, it's too much work, but the rewards are boundless. Let me reassure you that it's really rewarding to be a part of this field.
Mm-hmm. So this next question is a little vague. It's how can I make my career less risky? So I'll let you answer it in however you want to interpret it.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, like you mentioned, a little vague, but um, so potentially I'm assuming that you're saying, biomedical engineering might be a risky career, or how do I make sure that, potentially you don't get sued for working with patients and then making a device that, doesn't work for the patient. So there's a lot of responsibility as a biomedical engineer. You're working with patient lives. You need to make sure that your device or your research really follows the patenting laws, the ethics approval. There's a rigorous process that goes through every single step of the way. But when you, be a part of this industry and you start learning more about biomedical engineering as a student, I take a bunch of classes in my, schooling. Like this semester, I'm actually taking a class on how I can be more ethically friendly, how I can think more sustainably, how I can make sure that my biomedical devices all meet the laws, especially in Canada. So by, I think, being a part of a, class or a school, you can equip yourself to make less risky decisions.
Yeah, that is a great answer. There are a lot of little obstacles you might face in your career because of there's patenting laws. There's also, like you said before, like if your product doesn't work, you might get sued. So there's a lot of risks involved, but ultimately I feel like the rewards far outweigh all the risks you might face. We have one last question here. If we also want to make a change in the world, how should we start?
Awesome question. And you said in your question, you said, we want to make a change in the world like you. I still don't think I'm making a change in the world as yet. I think everything builds as a stepping stone towards making a really big impact. So to that, I would say start small. Start in your own life. If you're passionate, for example, about sustainability, take shorter showers. Don't keep the tap on when you brush, for example. Start small. If you want to make a difference in the healthcare industry, start volunteering, as I said. I cannot emphasize enough the importance of giving your time for free to those who need it. So definitely make those changes in your own life and start brainstorming on, different initiatives that you can start. It's never too early to be a change maker, to really get your hands dirty and start an initiative and get people involved, get your family, your friends to be a part of something that you believe in. Everyone loves to get involved in different activities. So take risks, don't be afraid, and you have it within you already.
Yeah, very well put. In my opinion, you've already changed the world a lot because of all of the initiatives you've done. So, it's always going to be humble, but you also need to, recognize your achievements. Also, in my opinion, like any little change in the world can become a big change because of the butterfly effect. There are a lot of things that could happen, with a small change that you do could end up, domino effect could end up being really big in the future. So those are some really good answers. However, we're running a little short on time, so I think there's 2 more questions that we had to skip here. So now I will show the raffle prizes again. So yes, again, we have a variety of raffle prizes for this conference. So please actively listen to these presentations, as you will also have a better chance of actually winning these prizes if you listen to each presentation. So here, this is the QR code to enter your name in the raffle for day 1, event 2. So there is a different QR code for each event. So as you can see, the more presentations you attend, the more likely you are to win a prize. So let's just take a moment for anyone interested in scanning this QR code. Okay, so now if everyone is done scanning the code, we will move on to a short break. If you missed the code, you can always scroll back in the YouTube stream. And also stay tuned for the event 4 from 3:30 to 4:10 p.m. with Professor Zhou Changgong. So now we will move on to our short 5-minute break.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for signing up for this event, MYE event. My name is Hannah Wang, and I'll be the moderator for this third event, day one of the Inspiring Role Model Conference with Dr. Zhou Changgong from 3:30 to 4:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Dr. Zhou is a natural science professor and has earned a Bachelor of Science in Physics from Tsinghua University, China, and a Doctor of Philosophy in Physics from Michigan Technological University. As an experimental physicist, Dr. Zhou has extensive experience in optical forces and aerosol dynamics. In recent years, Dr. Zhou is actively involved in developing physics lab instruction, including new experiment activities, innovative instruction models, 3D printed experiment apparatuses, and etc. Please enjoy his presentation as he talks about his story and his inspiring career. If you have any questions during his presentation, please feel free to write your questions in the chat, and at the end of his presentation, there will be a Q&A. But before we pass the mic on to Dr. Zhou, I would like to explain the raffle. We have a variety of raffle prizes for this conference. Please make sure you actively listen to these presentations so that you have a better chance of winning one of these awesome prizes. And at the end of the presentation and a Q&A section, I will show a QR code for this event's raffle. Now let us all welcome Dr. Zhou to the stage.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hannah, for the introduction. And it's a great honor to be able to join this special events, talk about my experience and share some of the moments in my career. And I hope it can give you some idea about my role as a physics teacher. So let me start sharing my screen, and then we'll go from there. Yeah, so here, this is my presentation for today. I'm a physics teacher, that's who I am. And right now I work in Lawrence Tech University as a senior lecturer. And the picture in this background, you will see a lot of pictures in my presentation. This one, I took this picture from Provo in Utah State. And I like this picture, one of my favorite. And at the beginning, I want to give you a quick introduction about who I am. And I'm the person, let me standing here. That's me on the left-hand side. And I want to give you a quick idea about what I'm doing and how I grew up to be who I am. So I grew up back in China. And when I was in middle school, I started liking physics. I think there are probably multiple reasons. One of the reasons is my mom was an electrical engineering professor at a university. So she taught a lot of things about, electricity generation. So once in a while, she would took her students to tour a lot of a hydropower plant, coal burning power plant. So I tagged along. I went with them. So compared to many average people, I think I probably have much more experience with those power plant. And I also have a dream one day, if it's possible, I would like to go on to, to tour a nuclear power plant. Okay, that's on my bucket list. And so going into those plants, seeing how things work, and take a look at how capable energy industries are, and it gives me the initial interest about physics, how things work. Okay, and in the process, when I grew up, my mom let me do a lot of things around the house. So we have a mechanical clock. Nowadays, most things are electronic, but yeah, in my time, there's still a lot of mechanical clocks. And one day, without getting permission from my parents, I just tear down one and take a look at what's going on the inside, all the gears and the springs. And eventually, I managed to put everything back. But the clock didn't work anymore. And my mom didn't say anything about it. And so she just let me do it and exploring things and trying different things. So that grew my interest around, all kinds of interesting stuff around me. I remember one day when she came back from a conference and she gave me a great surprise. She brought home a telescope. Well, that's a great surprise for me. So starting from that day, and yeah, if the night is clear, I will go outdoors and then set up my small telescope looking into the skies. And that furthered in my interest in physics. And so later on, I decided, yeah, I want to do physics. And when I went to college, I went to Tsinghua University in Beijing, and I initially started as a mechanical engineering student. But after 1 year and a half, I figured, oh, I still like physics more than anything else. So I switched my major and continued my physics pursuing. And after that, I came to America, got a PhD in applied optics. And I will talk about that later. And I started teaching when I was in graduate school. And after that, yeah, I came to Lawrence Tech and started teaching physics. And the reason I want to show you this picture is, well, I think it summarizes my job, daily activities very well. And the two persons standing next to me, they are math professors from another schools. And these three people, wait, let me get back. These three people, they are three of my former students. Two of them American, and the one standing on the rightmost, and he's actually a Chinese student. And I work with other professors, work with students. Yeah, that's my daily activities at work. We work on different projects and the classroom collaborations. So yeah, that's me, a physics teacher. And I want to quote one of my colleagues as saying here, and I think this summarizes why I choose physics as my career. And my friend says this: it bothers me if I don't understand how things work. And I think that's the driving force why I study physics. I want to figure out how things work. And for things that's obvious, like in this picture, this is also a picture from Provo in Utah during sunset. And sunset, we all know the sky turns red. It's so obvious. It's so natural. But why? Why it's red? And there's physics behind it. A sunny day, the sky is blue. Why it's blue? Yeah, there's physics behind it. And no matter which country you go to, America, China, any country around the world, traffic light, it's always red, green, yellow. Why people always use the same color? Well, there's physics behind it. So I want to figure out how things work. Sometimes for things obvious, sometimes for things that's not so obvious. For example, in the recent months, you probably hear the words artificial intelligence quite a bit. Yeah, how can we make a computer thinking just like a human being? I don't fully understand it at this point, but I want to spend time trying to figure out, learn from others, trying to figure out how that works. And if you follow scientific news, in the last week, you probably hear that a South Korean research team announced they discover room temperature superconductors. And superconductor is not new. We have a lot of superconductors in the past, but they all require special condition to work. For example, either extremely low temperature or extremely high pressure. So they don't have a real applications in daily life. But this South Korean team seemed to have some breakthrough. They discover room temperature superconductor. Well, if that's true, for sure, it's going to revolutionize industry. But how superconductor works? Well, there are a lot of physics. At this point, physicists do not have a full understanding how a material can be turned into a superconductor. Well, that's the driving force why people like me wants to study physics. We want to figure out how things work. And so this is my major driving force. Yeah, why I want to be a physicist. And other than doing physics, I also have some other hobbies. And here I listed 3 major ones. Number 1, photography. And all the pictures you see in my presentations are my own pictures. yeah, when I travel, when I go to different places, yeah, I take those pictures. And like in this one, this is a picture I shot just a couple weeks ago from the Door County in Wisconsin state. It's a pretty lovely sunset picture. And well, photography, it's about optics, right? How to use light. And I guess, yeah, my PhD is in optics. So I guess that's why I like photography. And other than taking pictures, I also enjoy doing 3D printing and all kinds of electronics project. And like what you see in this picture, that's some models I printed using my home printer. I print a lot of toys, functioning pieces. I also have a large 3D printer at my school, and we print a lot of lab equipment as well. So very useful, very powerful. So if you have the opportunity, I will highly recommend you, get a 3D printer, start working on something. And there are a lot of physics, engineering, and a lot of planning things. So a wonderful experience, a lot of fun. And another thing I enjoy doing a lot, very much, is biking. And here, this is another picture I shot of my bike in a local trail. And yeah, I like this picture. So these are my major hobbies outside, just doing physics. And in the next few slides, I want to share with you some of the special moments in my career. Oh, by the way, this picture is from the Niagara Falls, from the Canada side. And yep, another picture by me. And first, let me show you a few other pictures. Well, here you see, this is me making a presentation at a conference. And this is another picture of me. That's more than 10 years ago at another conference. So as a physics teacher, I get to work with people from other institutions, other schools, other research labs, and we work together. We share ideas, share our experience. We get together and have conferences. So it's a great experience. And yeah, going to those places, talking to different people, hearing their inspiration, ideas, look into their careers, how they achieve their goals. And that's amazing experience. So those are the special moments in my career. And here I want to also show you this picture. And so when I was invited by the Michigan Youth Empowerment Organization to make this presentation, I went to the organization website, take a look at presentation from last year. So when I go through the video, I noticed, hey, this guy, Aaron Wayne, I know him very well. And he was a presenter from last year. And I knew this guy when he was a high school student. Now he is an engineer working for a multi-continent company, Zeiss. And when I look at his video, wow, it's amazing. And he started as a high school student coming to my school, Lawrence Tech. At that point, he wanted to work on some research project. So we took him in. I'm not his advisor, but I got the opportunity to teach him a few equipment on our campus. So I got to know him. That's about probably 7 or 8 years ago. And then he went down to university, got his master's degree in bioengineering. He actually went to China for a year and teaching Chinese, and then going to a lot of engineering events, learning 3D printing, a lot of electronics projects. He eventually came back to America and started his own career and his own company. And we worked together on a robotics team a few years ago. So I know this guy very well. So seeing one of my former, advisee now becoming a presenter, a successful engineer. Yeah, this is a very rewarding experience as a physics teacher. And even though I'm not his teacher, I only advise him on a few occasions once a while, but it's amazing to see this kind of experience. Okay. So during one conference, a group of a physics teacher, we get together, we had a conversation. So one person is asking, yeah, why do we want to become a physics teacher? Well, before that moment, I never thought about it. I just want to do physics. I like teaching, so yeah, that's it. But when the question was raised, I paused for a moment, thought about it, and another guy in the conversation said, well, because we believe as a physics teacher, we make a difference to the society. We make a difference to the students we taught. And I think that's right. That summarizes why I want to be a physics teacher. I want to make a difference for myself, for the society, and I also want to make a difference for those young minds and help them grow, like Aaron Wayne. I'm very glad I can help him a little bit, not much, but a little bit. I make a difference. I see myself, through my work. I empower other peoples and making a difference. I think that's a defining moment to be a physics teacher. I really like that. And this is another picture of me. I have 2 cats at home. This is one of them. And so during this presentation, if you hear some strange sound or seeing a tail popping up on my table, yeah, that's one of my cat. And on this picture, I want to show you a few student projects we worked on. And this is one of the recent projects. And a student and I will work together studying nano-sized particles released by household supersonic humidifier. It's widely used in wintertime. And people like to use it, get comfortable in their house. But at the same time, those are humidifier that release a lot of nano-sized particles into air. It's a huge health concern, so very harmful. And we want to study the effects, the particle size, distribution, their topography, their chemical composition. So a student and I, we get together, we assemble this apparatus, including a lot of 3D pieces we printed together, like this yellow box. It looks like just a rectangle box, but there's some internal structures. We design themselves, we 3D print the parts, assemble everything, work on the project. And here in this picture, this is the student. Let me erase these lines. And this student, Dylan, he and I work on this particle project. And we took this picture when we made a poster presentation at a local event. And the professor standing in the middle, and he's a chemistry professor. He gave us a lot of advices during the project. And so, like I said, as a physics teacher, I work with students. I collaborate with other professors working on inside classroom, outside classroom on different projects, different occasions. So that's one of the experience. And here, this is another project I worked on with the students many years ago. It's an optics project. So here you see 8 optical sensors. We're trying to study some optical properties. So a few students and I worked together on that one. And this is another picture in our classroom. I work with 4 students. And for these 4 students, I want to mention a few words about them. And the boy standing on the left here, he was actually a chemistry major and taking a physics lab with us. And this boy in the middle, Ryan, after graduation, he went down to Oak Ridge National Lab and he graduated. And now he was a lead engineer at a local robotic company. So about 3 or 4 years ago, one day when I was teaching in classroom, Ryan popped up through my classroom door, standing there and saying hello to me. I was surprised. And he said, well, he got his degree. He now started a new job. He want to come back to campus, say hello to all the professors. So he just showed up at the door. it's a very rewarding experience for me because, you know, one of my former students, now he become a lead engineer for an engineering company. That experience, well, it almost brought me to tears at that moment, standing in front of my class. Okay, and this girl here, after graduation, he went down to University of Michigan, pursuing a PhD in quantum optics. And at this point, I don't know where she is. And this is another physics major student from my school. After that, she went on to become a physics teacher. And yeah, so this is the experience working with students and seeing their growth. And yeah, once you hear their growth, their success, it's just an unbelievable, rewarding experience. Yeah, so those are some student projects I worked on, and with various students, seeing their growth, seeing their success. And on this page, I want to particularly talk about the pandemic, COVID-19. It was a huge thing in our life, impacting me and you as well. And I guess everybody has the same experience. When the pandemic hits in 2020, all schools are shut down and we all went home. School becomes online. And it's a boring experience, I guess, for all students. Also a very boring experience for me as a teacher. And well, by the way, this picture was after a winter storm in a pond near my house. Okay. And I want to show you this picture. It has nothing to do with physics or my career, but it has something to do with the pandemic. When all schools shuts down, you know, everything goes online. You know, as a physicist, experimental physicist, I'm in charge of my physics lab at my school. You know, physics lab, it's always an in-person, hands-on experience. How can you have an online lab? It's impossible. But, you know, the pandemic, we have to turn everything online within 1 or 2 weeks. It was a challenge. And so I took this picture one day when I went back to school in early April 2020. At that time, the whole United States shut down, everybody stay home. But, you know, as an essential worker, I get to get back to campus. So when I drove to my campus, I took this picture on the road. At that moment, it was a busy road, usually, but at that moment, it's completely empty. There's no traffic. Nobody is walking on the street, just me driving alone. It's a beautiful view. So I parked my car in the middle of the road, came out, took my camera, and got this picture. Well, during normal years, normal days, I wouldn't be able to do this. And only during the pandemic, nobody's on the street, just me alone. I was able to do that. So during the 2 weeks and after school shuts down, I came back to school every day and quickly turned all our physics lab activities into online version. Well, it's not a satisfactory experience for students for sure, but you know, something is better than nothing. So I'm happy. I'm able to work with my colleagues to make things happen during those challenging times. And when I look back, thinking about this experience, I think, yeah, it's very rewarding. When everything went online, I can still make a difference because I'm a physics teacher. So this is the special moments during the pandemic. Well, luckily, it's all over now, and our life went back to normal. And on this page, I don't have other pictures other than the background. I took this picture in the Sleeping Bear National Dune in Michigan. And I don't have other pictures, just have this number, 38, to share with you. This is kind of a special number. And I think it's about 5 or 6 years ago. And after my first exam, I returned exam paper back to all students, and I hear a very loud complaint from a boy sitting in the front row. He looked at his exam paper and said, "Geez, this is the lowest score I ever had." What is his score? 38, the number you see on the screen. And the student actually was a very high performance student. he got 38 in that one. It's not because he didn't study physics well. It's because, yeah, in my school, I have a very bad reputation. I gave my students very challenging exams. And the 38, that's it. That's the score. And but eventually the student ended up still at an 8. So he's actually a pretty good student. And this number is kind of special because, yeah, it not just happened to that student. This number happened to me twice. It was my lowest exam score ever. It actually happened twice. The first time, when I was in elementary school, in China, English is a required second language. We started English education in elementary school. So during the first semester, the midterm exam, I got 38. That's it. And I believe for most students in the audience, anything below 90, probably you think that's a little bit low, right? Anything below 80, probably not acceptable. Yeah, when I was in elementary school, yeah, I get used to 80s, 90s, 38, a number, for my exam, this low. It was shocking because I didn't put efforts into the study of English at that moment. The second time 38 happened, that's when I was in college. Okay, and we had a course, I remember, we called that classical mechanics. It's a required course for physics major students, also doing a midterm exam. I think I was well prepared, but I got 38 out of it. Another, it matched my lowest record. It was shocking as well. And at the end, I end up passing the course, got a decent grade, not 8, but decent grade. And yeah, it happened. So I think once in a while in our career, things like this will happen, and there's some low moments, but just keep fighting, keep trying, put your efforts in, and you can turn things around. And I managed to turn things around from my English class, from my physics class, and the student I mentioned earlier, yeah, he managed to turn things around. So everybody will all have those low moments, but that's okay. Just work hard and learn a lesson, turn things around. That's it. Okay. So this is another experience I would like to share with you. Some special numbers I have. And in the last picture, and here, this is a picture I shot around Chicago, I believe. Yeah. Because I like photography, I like taking pictures. So once in a while, I received a lot of requests, many of my friends, and they told me, and my daughter, they have a graduation ceremony tomorrow. Can you, help us take some pictures? And also at my school as a teacher, at the end of every year, I need to go to graduation ceremony with my students. So yeah, I end up in many, many different graduation ceremonies. And every ceremony, they're going to invite a speaker giving an inspiring speech to the students. So I forgot which speaker this is, but this sentence by that speaker gives me a strong, very, very strong impression. That was still when I was in graduate school. And the speaker said this to the graduating student. After graduation, you're going to go on, develop your career and find a job. And an ideal job for you is something you enjoy, you want to do so much. You can even do it for free. Even if they don't pay you, you just want to do it. And then you do it so well because you put your efforts in, you do it so well. Other people appreciate your efforts, your performance. So they pay you to do it. So that's a perfect ideal job. And this sentence strikes me deeply. And when I look back, physics isn't an ideal job. Physics teacher is it an ideal job for me? I would say if it's not the first, probably the second or the third one. I have some other ideas, but I do enjoy doing physics. So yeah, as a physics teacher, that's something I like to do, making a difference. And helping people grow as students, working with other professors to make things happen, develop new idea, new concept, new curriculum, new methods. I enjoy doing that. And I think I probably do a good job. That's why my school decided to pay me, keep me in the position. So yeah, that's an ideal job. So later on, after you graduate from high school, went down to college and pursuing higher degree, finding a job later. And I hope you can find your ideal job and something you like to do so much, you do it for free. And at the same time, you do it so well, others will pay you to do it. So this is another special moment from out of, I don't know, more than 30 graduation ceremony I've been to. And at the end, I just want to show you my email. If you have any questions about the life of a physics teacher in America and how to study physics and the what kind of a career you can develop as a physics student and anything you want to know about physics, photography, 3D printing, or even biking, anything, feel free to let me know. We can get together. Yeah, shoot me that email. Okay, so that's the end of my presentation. Let me get back to Hannah. Hannah, can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you so much, Dr. Zhou, for that wonderful and inspiring presentation. I see a couple of questions that has popped up in the chat. So I will read them out loud to you and you can answer them. So what are some physics internships or projects that you recommend high school students to participate in?
I'm sorry, can you say it again?
What are some physics internships or projects that you recommend high school students to participate in?
One thing I would say is you can take a look at some universities around your position, around your place, and reach out to some professors, because you may not find anything from their website, but actually a lot of physics professors, they want to include high school students in their project, and for various reasons. Some professors, they want to enroll new students into their program. Some professors, they want to help high schoolers to gain physics skills. They want to develop next generation physicists. So local schools, actually, under the scene, there are a lot of project ideas. And you can also check out, other than physics department, take a look at engineering, because in my point of view, physics study things, how things work in the fundamental part. Engineers then took it over and then turn it into a real life product. So actually the physicists and engineers, they just work on different spectrum of the same thing. So other than physics, you can also check out engineering departments. And like at my school, Lawrence Tech Universities, and we do run some summer programs, all kinds of different research projects are available. And you may not find those projects listed on our website, but once you reach out to the department, to the professors, you can send me an email, or to other people in the departments. Yeah, they will be more than happy to reach back to you to let you know the opportunities. And other than local universities, if you have research companies and the engineering companies in your area, you can also reach out too. And actually, there are a lot of projects, community outreach projects, they would like to involve high school students. So, and from my experience, I think they are actually more project opportunities than we realize they are.
Nice. Okay. Someone also said, I noticed that you mentioned you gave very hard exams to your students. May I ask what your motive was behind it?
Well, several reasons. Hard exams help you identify which student is the A-level student, which one is the B-level student. You have to write problems hard enough. Otherwise, if everybody gets A, And it's now rewarding to those students who actually put efforts into their study. Another motivation here is I want to help students build their resilience, develop a tough mind, giving them hard moments early on when they are students. So later on, when they go to their job, real life, develop their own career, there are always some down moments, low moments. And if they are beaten up early on, they can then take up more challenging moments later on in their career. So that's the reason. And also at my, in my home, I also give my daughter a hard time too. And beat them up, help them build a tough mindset. Yeah, I think that's another reason.
I also think mindset is really important. I think we have time for 1 or 2 more questions. What suggestions do you have for someone who just started learning physics and is interested in continuing the field in the future?
My answer probably will be a little bit biased because I'm an experimental physicist. I like to work on things hands-on, and I do enjoy doing simulations once in a while, but most of my work, I get back to lab, working on all kinds of different things. So for people who want to start learning some physics and try some hands-on projects, and there are a lot of places you can find interesting ideas, and maybe working on the Raspberry Pi project, develop some interesting electronics, develop a home server, develop a light show. And another thing you can try, like I said, 3D printer. It's amazing, very rewarding experience. Designing your own 3D model and turn it into something tangible in your hand and overcome a lot of failures. You can learn a lot of things from 3D printing. And well, another thing I forgot to mention during the presentation is, and as a physics teacher, I taught students, but 3D printing, actually, my 3D printing was started by one of my students. He taught me the software to use. He taught me a lot of tricks to overcome some easy mistakes in 3D printing. So yeah, as a teacher, it's not not just me teaching my students. Sometimes I learn quite a bit from my students as well. Then that's a very enjoyable experience. So doing 3D printing, electronics projects, and yeah, those are good starting points. Another thing you can try if you're into computers, building your own computer, assembling things together, make it work, tuning it, overclock it, and yeah, a lot of different things you can try.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Everything was so helpful and inspiring, everything you said. However, we are a little short on time, so I'm very sorry for people who still have questions, or if your questions were not answered. All of those questions were wonderful, but I will now show again the raffle prizes again. These are all amazing raffle prizes and interesting. And please scan this QR code on the right to enter your name in the raffle for day 1, event 3. There is a different QR code for each event. So as you can see, the more presentations you attend, the more likely you are to win a prize. Let's take a moment for anyone interested in scanning this QR code. If people are finished scanning this QR code, we will now move on to a short 5-minute break. So stay tuned for event 4 from 4:15 to 4:55 p.m. with Dr. Renee Ashworth. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Dr. Joe.
Thank you. It's a great honor.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this event. My name is Ryan Kong, and I will be the moderator for this segment. This is the last event of day one with Dr. Renee Ashworth from 4:15 to 4:55 p.m. All right, so a little bit about Dr. Ashworth. So Dr. Ashworth graduated from the University of Pennsylvania with a bachelor's in neuroscience. She then earned her medical doctorate from Temple University School of Medicine and completed her hematology and oncology fellowship at New York University School of Medicine. Dr. Ashworth joined CUIMC in 2015 as an assistant professor of medicine, but also as a pioneer physician of the Oncology Hospitalis program, which serves to bridge medical care between the outpatient subspecialty practices and the inpatient hospital setting for acutely ill cancer patients. And so also, before we get started with the presentation, at the end of the event, there will be a raffle, which will include all of these awesome prizes. So make sure to stick around. The more you actively engage with the presentations, the better of a chance you have essentially of winning these cool prizes. So make sure to check these out as well. I will have a QR code at the end. But without further ado, let's hand the mic to Dr. Ashworth.
Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be participating in this amazing symposium, virtual symposium today. I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, so hopefully that is up on your screens. You can see the title of my talk today. It's called Making It in Medicine, Some Helpful Anecdotes from My Career Journey. And I'm coming to you in the humblest of forms, just wanting to share my story. There's no frills, there's no fluff. It's just me and what I've been through. And I hope to be inspiring and motivating for those of you who are considering a career in healthcare. So I wanted to start off with this quote by Michelle Obama. It reads, "For me, becoming isn't about arriving somewhere or achieving a certain aim. I see it instead as a forward motion, a means of evolving, a way to reach continuously toward a better self. The journey doesn't end." And this quote resonated with me because when I look back on everything that I've been through and have accomplished in getting to this point in my life and in my career, I do see it as an evolution. The journey has not been perfect by any means or straight and narrow by any means, but I have grown as a person, as a physician, throughout the entire time. And I think grown into a better version of myself over the years and look forward to growing more in the years to come as my career progresses. So I hope that you can see and listen to what I'm saying and see the evolution and understand that for yourselves, there's an evolution as long as you are committed to the journey that you're on. So I'll start off by addressing the question why I chose medicine. I remember from the time when I was a little girl, even as early as kindergarten, having school projects, writing a book report about what I wanted to be when I grew up. And that book report read, and my mom saved it, it read, when I grow up, I want to be a hairdresser and a doctor. And I don't exactly know where the hairdresser bit came from, but I do recall at that age being very interested in science, wanting to understand why things worked. If there was something broken, wanting to understand how I could fix it. And the curiosity surrounding those things, I think, is what was the foundation for me wanting to at least go into something that was science related. And so as I grew, through my early education years, and even getting into high school, I recall, getting involved in science fairs and creating posters for experiments that I had done, and ultimately kind of envisioning myself as this, originally a scientist, but definitely somebody who wanted to answer scientific questions. And keeping that in mind and having a parent who was very in tune to what I was interested in at the time, I got involved in a program. I'm from Philadelphia, and at the time, there's a major university, which some of you may have heard of, called Temple University. And based from there was a physician scientist training program for young kids as young as 10, 11, 12 years old, who were interested in pursuing a career in medicine. And when my mom found the advertisement for that, she signed me up right away. And basically that program gave me the exposure not only to the hospital and the healthcare setting, but also to the research setting, where I was able to work in a lab and work with the scientists. And that really is what sparked my interest in wanting to go into healthcare, seeing doctors take care of patients, watching them interact with them, looking at computer screens, reviewing labs, talking about diagnoses. And on the flip side, in the lab, asking themselves questions about the patients that they're taking care of and trying to develop experiments in hopes that they can find some kind of cure or some kind of way to improve the health state of the patients that they were seeing. That is really what kind of catapulted me and catapulted my interest into wanting to go into medicine. And so as an undergrad, I focused my core curricula on the pre-medical classes. I did a lot of work, and I'll talk a little bit about this later, about how difficult that was for me. I want you guys to know it's not an easy path, but it's definitely a doable path to become a physician. But I did a lot of work, and eventually I got into medical school. And so just to kind of present to you, when you're thinking about your careers and what it is that you want to do when you are for your profession or career, you have to ask yourself what is interesting to you. And I like this little schema, this algorithm that kind of starts with that question: what interests you? And then you can go down the different pathways and ask yourselves these questions. But for me, I did want to give care to others. I wanted to work with people, not animals. I wanted to work one-on-one with them. And any of the sciences is what kind of piqued my interest in wanting to apply what I was learning to sick people. And so I ended up at being a physician. And I can tell you that it wasn't always like a medical doctor. At one point, I wanted to be a genetic engineer because I was really interested in the HeLa cells that I was learning about in 8th grade. Then that evolved to, I wanted to be a marine biologist. I was a swimmer in junior high school, middle school, and high school. And so I was thinking about how I could apply my love of the water to science. And so at one point I wanted to do marine biology, but what was more important to me was interacting with people. And that's how I arrived at becoming a doctor. And so just for your own knowledge, there are different ways that you can become a doctor. There are 2 different types of medical schools that one could attend if they're interested in being a physician. If you're interested in becoming a doctor of medicine, you attend an allopathic medical school. And if you want to be a doctor of osteopathic medicine, you attend an osteopathic school. And the difference between the 2 is that while people who attend allopathic schools focus on more conventional ways of treating diseases and illnesses, people who attend osteopathic medical schools learn those things, but also learn a more well-rounded, or I shouldn't say well-rounded, but a different approach that encompasses the entire mind, body, and spirit to help cure disease. And so either way, either path you choose, you need to do 4 years of medical school, whether that's allopathic or osteopathic. And during that time, you can decide what kind of specialty you'd like to go into, whether that's primary care, family medicine, OBGYN, general surgery. There's other specialties like emergency medicine, neurology, radiology, but those are the things that you would get exposed to during medical school. And by the time you complete medical school, you then pick a field of interest. And how you want to act within that field, or how you want to practice within that field of interest, is up to you. Some people want to go into academia, where they're able to not only take care of patients, but teach or conduct research in a lab, whereas others want to go into private practice and work more so in the community. Sometimes people go into the big pharma industries and use their clinical or medical knowledge and apply that to clinical trial building. And then some people become consultants. And then I should mention a little bit about the physician assistant career pathway, which some people choose when they want to have the same kind of care responsibilities as a physician, but maybe not as great as what a physician would be responsible for when it comes to taking care of a person. They ultimately go to PA school or physician assistant school, people who choose this career path. They eventually earn their master's degree after 2 or 3 years. PAs can work in any specialty or subspecialty within the field of medicine. And so some people choose this career path because it works best for what they envision their lifestyle to be. But I just kind of wanted to go over that with you so that you can understand. And then just a little bit more in depth about once you are in medical school, what that looks like. You are in medical school for 4 years. To get into medical school, you have to take what's called the MCAT. There's a different entrance exam for people who are pursuing a doctorate of osteopathic medicine, but for people who want to get a doctorate of medicine, you take the MCAT to then, apply towards your application of getting into medical school. Once you're accepted, the first 2 years of your medical education involve coursework, where you're learning kind of basic things that are going to be required for you to be able to assess, diagnose, and treat a human being who has an illness. And those courses include anatomy, biochemistry, microbiology, pathology, and pharmacology. And then once you get through all the coursework, you go into your 3rd year, where you start rotating through different fields, different subspecialties, to get exposure to these different fields of medicine and learn how to take care of patients within those fields. And then lastly, in your 4th year, you're kind of narrowing down, or you've narrowed down what kind of doctor you want to become. You're applying for residencies in those fields, and you graduate with hopefully a match in a residency that is specific to the kind of doctor you want to become. So for me, I did my 4 years of medical school. I quickly learned that internal medicine was what I wanted to pursue. It is a field of medicine that in which you're able to interact with people, you're able to solve problems, you're able to intervene with families. And that was really important to me, as opposed to being a surgeon or an ophthalmologist or a radiologist. I can tell you, during my 3rd year of medical school, I actually had a baby. So that factored in tremendously to what kind of field of practice I wanted to go into. And it definitely did not involve surgery, where I had to be up at 4 a.m. and in the hospital at 5 and not leave until 7 p.m. and barely see my baby. So when you're choosing a career path within medicine, you definitely want to take into consideration the kind of lifestyle that you want to live, because, there has to be a balance. So as I was alluding to before, this path of becoming a physician is a long one. It's arduous. It requires a lot of tenacity. And while some people might think that it's a straight and narrow course where you get into college, you do your 4 years of college, and then straight from college, you go to medical school, and then straight from medical school, you do your residency, then your fellowship, and then you become an attending physician, and it's just simple, bada bing, bada boom, you're done. No, that is not the case for most physicians. And I will say that everybody has their own path, and you have to, keep plugging along if being a doctor is really what you want to do. So I tried to depict kind of what my path looked like over the years. You can see I graduated from high school in 1998, and then I went to college at UPenn, as you were told at that point in time. And college was a fun time, but a fun time socially for me, but it was a hard time academically. And I kind of lost sight of my goal in terms of being a doctor, in getting caught up in what happens in college, and so to be very honest with you, I didn't make the grades. I didn't graduate magna cum laude or with a 4.0 GPA, but knowing what it was going to take in order for me to get into medical school, I actually did a post-baccalaureate program at UPenn. And for those of you who don't know what post-baccalaureate program is, it's basically an opportunity for you to do your science core curricula and get good grades so that you can apply that when you're trying to get into medical school. So that yellow curved line, it represents kind of a little bump in the road that I experienced there in doing the post-baccalaureate, but I actually did really well in the post-baccalaureate. And right before I got into medical school, I also worked at a pharmaceutical company as a research technician. So I felt like those two things kind of bolstered my application. And ultimately I got into medical school. So from 2004 to 2008, I attended the Temple University School of Medicine. And as the green line shows, there was a lot of topsy and turvy during that time. Life happens. I was married, I got divorced, and through all of that, I had a baby. And through all of that, I was still dedicated to wanting to be a physician. So I just say those things to tell you or to impress upon you that things can happen in life, but as long as your goals are clear and you're committed to those goals, you can achieve what it is that you're looking to achieve and getting to the career that you want. And so ultimately, I got through med school. I got through residency. I did excel in residency and ultimately became a chief resident. And after chief residency, I went on to do my fellowship at NYU, which was an amazing time. I went into hematology oncology because of my personal experience with oncology. My father passed away from cancer, and that kind of impressed upon me the need to have physicians who look like me, being able to take care of this population of patients, specifically underrepresented minority patients. In oncology, there are huge healthcare disparities. And so that kind of like put me in the position to want to pursue that. And plus I had great mentors who wanted to see me succeed. And from there, from fellowship, I landed my first job at Columbia Presbyterian. I've been there ever since, but through hard work and favor and doing the right thing, I'm actually moving on to be the director of inpatient oncology at Northwell Health's LIJ Hospital in Queens, New York. So I am really proud of what I've accomplished. It wasn't easy getting here, but I got here and I'm happy. With that being said, and I alluded to this already, that there are going to be successes, no doubt, but failure is part of becoming successful, and it's all part of the process. Whether you do really well on the wards in one rotation, but perhaps you didn't pass that in-service exam, or You are doing great with your research project, but an experiment failed. There's no need to get down on yourself. You just got to pick yourself up by the bootstraps and keep going, keeping in mind that there will be ultimately a light at the end of the tunnel. And then one last thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about was imposter syndrome. And as you're going through this journey and working hard, at times you might feel like you don't belong, or perhaps you think people are looking at you as if you didn't deserve to be where you are. You didn't really make the grade. You're not smart enough. Your ideas aren't novel enough. And you really start to doubt where you are and how you got there and whether or not you even belong there. And that can be defined as, or most people can consider that, imposter syndrome. And I bring that up to say that I have experienced that at different points in my career path, being surrounded by some of the smartest individuals, doctors who are internationally renowned for their work in certain specialties, especially in oncology. It can make you doubt whether or not you're actually good enough to do what you are trying to do. And I want to encourage you to kind of fight those thoughts down and just tell yourself that you worked hard, you belong, you deserve to be there, you put the work in, and don't let anybody else tell you differently. I can't tell you how many times I've had naysayers come into my path and try to tell me that I wasn't going to become a doctor, or that I wasn't smart enough to get into an Ivy League school, or that my research was not compelling enough to apply for an oncology fellowship. And look where I am here today, speaking to you about, how I got to be an oncology hospitalist. So if any of you out there are feeling those feelings, tell yourself, get thee behind me, negative thoughts, because you're lying. That's a lie. I belong here. I've worked hard and I'm going to keep pressing forward. So I will stop there. I know that there's questions, or perhaps you might want to get a little bit more detail about some of the things that I've experienced. But again, I just want to thank, the moderators of this conference for allowing me to share some of these things with you. I wanted to show you some pictures from my journey. I have here, a photo with some of my fellowship classmates, with some of my mentees, some of the students that I mentored to during the year. The picture of me in a pink dress is when I graduated from chief residency. The poster was my first ASCO, which ASCO stands for American Society of Clinical Oncology. That's the national conference for oncologists across the world. That was the first time that I'd ever got to present in that kind of international forum, which was very exciting. And lastly, Dr. Edith Mitchell, who's is nationally known for her work in DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and trying to minimize the healthcare gap or healthcare disparities in oncology. So I'll stop there and I will take questions that you might have.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Ashworth, for the inspiring speech. Now we can ask questions, and I have a few lined up, both in the Q&A and in my chat. So, all right, let's go. First of all, someone asked, I know the medical path is a very rigorous and long one. Have you ever regretted going down this path in any way? Also, personally, I like to have a bit of free time to relax, and I'm not always the most productive. How would you overcome this mental block?
Okay, so to answer the first question, no, I never regretted the career path that I chose, because each time the road got bumpy or rocky, I would have an interaction with somebody, whether it was a patient or a physician or a mentor, who just really restored my faith in what I thought or what I think my calling is, which is to be an oncology doctor. Interactions with patients especially can be some of the most rewarding experiences, and especially in oncology where the outcome isn't always positive, just to be able to provide a person, a human being, with a sense of peace of mind with whatever is happening to their body is such a huge, it provides such a huge sense of gratification and sense of purpose for why it is that I put myself through all the rigorous training in the first place. And then the second question, I can say that it does become challenging at times to maintain the motivation and the oomph to really keep going, because it is a long road. Wanting to become a doctor, it's many, many years of training. And I would say for that, you do have to live a sort of a balanced life. So if you're going to study for 3 hours, then you have to at least take an hour and go to the movies or get your nails done or go to the gym or hang out with family or friends. That's what really helped to get me through. Despite all of the hard work, I made it an intentional goal to also focus on things outside of medicine, whether that was, doing things that satisfy me, like running or, hanging out with my kids, or reading a book, or just something that was completely different from what I was doing on a day-to-day basis. So I'd say balance is really important.
Okay, and that actually comes into one of the other questions. You mentioned balance between work and life. What would you say would be the best course to balance, I guess, work time and free time?
Yeah, I mean, work time is pretty set in my day-to-day. I know for a certain amount of hours a day, I'm going to have to dedicate to my patient care, to my practice, to my mentorship, to my education, medical education of students and mentees. And that's not changing. That's finite. What's also finite is my time off. And so when I'm off, I make sure to completely disconnect from anything that involves work. Now, thankfully, in my career, I have the ability to do that. Some physicians, they have to be on call all the time because they're working in private practice. So their patients have their cell phone numbers. Or if you're on call in general in the hospital, there are times when you do have to be accessible at all times of the day. But I really take my time away from work seriously. I shut down my email. I shut down my, my medical record haiku. I completely separate because, it's important to be able to get away at times. And in that time off, I really try to maximize the things that make me happy, or maximize time doing things that make me happy. A lot of that for me is spending time with my kids and my husband. It used to be working out, but my children are so busy. I spend a lot of time just running around with them, but that actually brings me joy. Hanging out with friends, even if it's for an hour or so, like I really try to do things that take me away from the clinical realm so that I can feel like I'm living a balanced life.
All right, sounds amazing. Another question in the Q&A says, how important is communication for being on the pathway or becoming something in the medical field? And in this case, I guess, interpret communication however you would like. I am not too sure what it means in this sense, but if you have an idea, I think.
Sure. I mean, communication in this field in this job, in this career, is extremely important. And in the early phases, I interpret that to mean like in terms of being able to advocate for yourself. If you're at a point, you're in college, you're in high school, you are trying to get those pre-med requisites and do well in those courses, there's not something that you understand, it is very important for you to be able to speak up and advocate for yourself and explain to a professor or a teacher or a colleague that you need help. I can't tell you how important that is in the beginning phases, learning how to speak up for yourself so that you can get the knowledge you need in order to succeed on the exam, to write the paper, to give the oral presentation. And then moving on, within practice, you're communicating with people all day long, not just your patients, but your coworkers, your physician assistants, your nurses, your consultants, the people who are in charge of getting your patient to and from appointments or to and from different departments within the hospital. It is really important that you fine-tune your communication skills so that you're able to be effective in advocating for your patient, advocating for yourself in terms of what you need to do your job, being able to negotiate a contract. And trust me, that is a skill that is developed over time. At this phase, some of you may be in high school or college, and it's not, customary for you to need to speak up all the time, but start working on it now, because you'll find that whatever career path you choose, communication is really, really important. And then one last piece, public speaking, that kind of communication. I can tell you, I am not fond of speaking in front of people. Zoom definitely makes it a lot easier, but it's definitely a skill that you can begin to practice now, because there's going to come a time when you're going to have an audience and you want to feel comfortable in front of people and in front of an audience so that you're able to convey your message and have your voice be heard.
Definitely. Okay, a few more questions. Another one from the YouTube chat says, what is your ultimate career goal?
Good question. I've been trying to hash this out over the past few weeks, being as though I am actually moving on from where I work, which is Columbia Presbyterian, where I was working as an oncology hospitalist, but also a faculty advisor for internal medicine residents. And I am, through those experiences, I've learned that my love for patient care is deep. And when I'm away from that, it is challenging, although I also recognize that my love for mentorship is also deep. And so I'm moving on to become the director of inpatient oncology at another institution. My goal is to ultimately become an administrator where I'm able to build programs like the one I built at Columbia at different hospitals across the Northwell Health System, which is mainly focused in the greater New York or Long Island area. I think inpatient oncology is an evolving niche of medicine that is becoming more and more necessary as our population ages and more patients are getting cancer and getting sick with cancer and needing acute inpatient care, not just outpatient visits with their primary oncologist. So ultimately, I'd like to build that into a super subspecialty of oncology and ultimately become an administrator, like a CMO that oversees, or chief medical officer that oversees that kind of inpatient program. And then aside from that, I think another goal, given my love for mentorship and medical education, I really would like to start a non-for-profit kind of like physician shadowing program, similar to what I was a part of when I was in high school. I had the opportunity to kind of dabble in that a little bit while I was at Columbia. having students come in, high school students, undergraduate students come in and just round with me and see patients, and we talk about patients, and just providing avenues of exposure for people who are interested in pursuing this career path, especially when it comes to being someone who contributes to closing the healthcare disparity gap, whether that's within oncology or the field of medicine in general. Part of that involves feeding the pipeline, or essentially giving people who are not traditionally represented in medicine the opportunity to see what we do at a very early age, and give them the impression and the idea that this is something that they can do. So, I want to even start at an earlier age, maybe at grade school, where kids can just see doctors who look like them and talk like them and live like them, and get ideas in their head about what they want to do in their lives. So I think CMO and non-for-profit head is what I'm aiming for.
Okay. Sounds amazing. Oh yeah, one quick question. This is just me. It's not from like the chat or anything.
Sure.
But could you just quickly explain the difference between inpatient and outpatient care?
Yes, sure. So inpatient refers specifically to in the hospital. Outpatient usually refers to in the clinic. So I refer to myself as an inpatient oncologist, meaning that I'm a doctor who practices oncology, but only in the hospital. I don't have a clinic. I don't have office hours. Usually, if you're under my care, it means that you're really, really sick. And that is my area of expertise. Whereas there are outpatient oncologists who typically see patients in the clinic. They're seeing them on a semi-regular basis to kind of monitor their disease and how they're doing while they're on treatment of their disease.
All right, sounds amazing. And that I think is all for today. That's all we have time for, because we still have to do like the raffle and all that. So thank you so much, Dr. Ashworth. And yeah, thank you for all of the inspiring speeches and your advices and stories from your career journey. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, and best of luck to you all.
Thank you. All right, so now we have our raffle, and as usual, here are the prizes, and in a second I will pull up a QR code that you guys can scan to sign up for the raffle. And all right, here you go. Sign up. It's a different Google form for every event. So the more of these you sign up for, the higher your chances are of actually winning a prize. And these are really cool prizes. So scan as many of these as you can. I'll leave this on the screen for just another minute. Okay, and almost there. Also, this is the last event of today, and tomorrow there will be 4 more amazing speakers. So be sure to tune in tomorrow at the same time, 2 p.m. I will have the next slide, which will show you the schedule for tomorrow and all the speakers that are lined up to speak. All right, we should be good with the QR code. All right, so that is all for today. Make sure to tune in tomorrow, 2 p.m. We have Megan Burke, Yan Cheng, Ayana Christie, and Yayun Jin speaking tomorrow with a variety of different stories, telling all of their journeys, and they're all amazing. So make sure to not miss any of them. All right. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see you tomorrow. Okay. Thank you guys.